Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As always, we plan to have an interesting discussion. And as I was saying to my old friend, Sherrod Small, who I've known for many years, the last time we saw each other was maybe 6 months ago in New York when we had dinner. But
Yeah.
anyway, I want to discuss a very sensitive subject. And we had no preparation. You and I didn't talk about anything, did we, Sherrod? Basically,
No.
what's going to happen. So the questions are going to be pretty impromptu, and I don't give opinions or anything. I just basically ask questions, make an occasional comment. But before we start, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sherrod Small. I'm a comedian, actor, writer, producer, podcaster. I'm from New York City, and I'm very funny. I'm very handsome. Me and the judge, we go back years doing shows like this, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be back.
Well, we're going to talk about some sensitive issues.
Yes. We don't do it. Who's going to do it, huh, Judge?
Well, we used to do this when we had the radio show. And we talked about controversial things, but a lot of things have happened since then. And it's truly a turbulent time. There's always been issues. These issues have been around a long time. And there were movements and petitions and rallies and whatever, but it hasn't gone to the depth that it's gone in the last maybe 2 years.
Right.
We need to address it. I start off usually by saying, look at the Constitution. The original Constitution treated black men as only 3/5 of a person. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah, the Constitution ain't always been on our side, But it was written by people like humans, so humans are imperfect. So it's not like it's not like it's some magical thing. It's just it gets better with time.
But it evolved in the passage of an amendment to the Constitution anyway. So it's been an issue that's been at the front for a long, long, long time.
Right.
And the book Animal Farm. Remember that book?
Well, Animal Farm, yes, of course. George Orwell.
There's a great quote in there. It says, "Some are more equal than others."
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a good line.
Well, when you think about some of these pithy things that are said, a lot of it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's sometimes cloaked in humor, because I know you do that.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not treated as seriously as it really is. But this is a serious issue right now, and that has to do with bias.
Yeah.
Racial bias, prejudice, hate.
Yeah. It's racial, it's sexual, it's just as much, gender bias as it is racial. So
it's pick your hate. Everybody's got these situations. And in reality, if you look at the definition of hate, it usually has to do with you and what you're missing or what you want and your ego. And once you buy into that it's about you and not about anybody else, you see what the result is. I mean, this is a spiritual concept that if you want to have good things happen in your life, you got to do good things.
Yes.
Yes. And if you don't do things and you exercise your free choice to do something dishonorable or dishonest, it comes back to you just like the same old boomerang.
Yeah.
So whatever's happened to you is happening because you created it.
Yes. Yes.
I'll get off that philosophy for the moment. But there's the old expression about the pendulum. The pendulum swings both ways. You heard that before?
Oh, of course.
And we're seeing that now. And we've been seeing it develop in one direction and now in another. And so the question really is, has the pendulum swung too far to the left, in your opinion?
Too far? I mean, it's all relative. It's like it just swings. It goes. I wouldn't say too far, but it's like it's just these things play out with time and society. So, I mean, it's just a weird thing. But I don't think it's not too far. I think it's extremes. We go to extremes now. So many more extremes, and people not listening to each other. So that's what we are.
Well, there was a kind of an interesting comment made in one of the social media or on one of the cable stations that Michelle Obama was heard saying on a hot mic that the only thing that really mattered were Black issues. And I kind of sat back and said to myself, that's not a good thing when you're talking about somebody with that kind of power and influence. I mean, so the Constitution says everybody's equal. We were all created equal.
Right.
Equal means equal. And so the question really is, I was talking about the pendulum, has any of that been skewed in one or other direction?
Yeah, well, wait, Michelle Obama said that the only thing that matters is Black issues?
Yeah, basically, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay. Well, people, that's not true. It's all issues matter. But I don't know. It's just a weird time right now because, people think that somebody's getting more than they're getting, or somebody's getting more, consideration than they're getting. But I think that, like, when it comes to DEI and diversity and equity and inclusion, I think white women too, they fail to realize that they're in the same group as Black people, because a lot of these chances and benefits that these things include are women. Because women were at one point weren't able to have these opportunities, just like people of color.
Well, how do you think for want of a better word, the white community is responding to these programs like DEI and agricultural acts that go back, which I think you and I once talked about, as a matter of fact, where there was a preference in repayment of debt to Black farmers, but only Black farmers. That's what it says in the statute. Right. So the question is, how do you think I shouldn't say overall, some of the white community is feeling as to what's going on? I think, is it a backlash of any kind?
I think just, people or politicians are using this to separate us, and they're just weaponizing these things and trying to, confuse people with things like some of these topics. But why would you be against diversity? Like, you know what I'm saying? Why would you be against equality or inclusion? Like, if you break down each word, that's why when people say DEI, I go, I don't know what that means. What? Well, tell me, explain that. What's the D? What's the E? What's the I? Because I want to hear them say, I'm against diversity. I'm against equality. Because when they break it down, just DEI, it's like, I don't know what that, I just say, I don't know what that is. You got to explain it to me. So I can actually hear them say, I'm against diversity. Because it sounds ridiculous when you say the whole word out.
Well, if you start every question with the issue of merit, who's more qualified, and recently,
it's always about
air controllers and the lack of merit.
It's hilarious that they're talking about like merit, like some of Trump's cabinet and whatnot, because it's like, you think these people are like higher because they are the best of the best, like the guy who's a Secretary of Defense and all. You think these guys are the best of the best? You think they got it off of merit? It's like it's so ridiculous. It's like it's so many more qualified people than these people who are saying these things. It's like they trying to pretend like they're the best of the best, and they're not. They just got an opportunity because they were in the right position.
Well, that's politics. It has nothing to do with anything realistic, other than the fact that they all have their own motivations. And the first desire that every politician has when they get elected, you know what the first priority is?
What?
Getting reelected.
Getting reelected, yes.
And it's a cushy thing. I keep thinking about all these allegations of fraud and corruption. Nancy Pelosi was making $223,000 a year. She's worth $130 million. How did that happen?
I mean, well, her father sold heroin, so how did that happen? I mean, we know the four families that run California. We know the Browns and the Gettys and the Pelosi's and the Newsoms. I mean, this is old as time itself. We know these four families ran and run California for the longest, and it was dirty money from the jump. And somebody out of one of those families was governor for the last 60 years, other than like Ronald Reagan and Nixon. They ran the governorship for what, 60 years, 70 years. So it's like this is like, and like Nancy is not the beginning of this thing or the end. It's like this been going on from the 1900s,
Well,
early 1900s.
a lot is done, at least historically, to conceal what's going on. We're only now discovering some of the quote deals, end quote, that were made. In fact, among the presidents, and I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I've been an independent for years.
Yes, I'm an independent, but at the same time,
all this evidence that Biden was as crooked as they got, and the atmosphere and the attitude and that good old guy.
yeah,
In fact, Hunter Biden's laptop contained a lot of very incriminating material, all of which was suppressed by that administration. So, you look at it, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, if that. So if you start everything with merit, and I always use this example, assume for the moment that you're in the process of making a big business deal and you're on the phone with the other person, and it's not a Zoom, it's a regular telephone, as obsolete it may be. And you talk for a while, you negotiate, and you ultimately make a deal. Does it make any difference whether the person on the end of the phone is black, white, or anything else? Of course not.
No.
Because you're making a deal, you're now evaluating and judging who you're talking to. And so it has nothing to do with race, color, ethnicity, or anything else. The bottom line is, that's why it shouldn't make any difference, by the way.
Right.
It's the person and it's who they are that really matters. The color makes no difference whatsoever. So the reality is, you got to look at merit first. And do you think, your own opinion, that the DEI programs take that into consideration?
Yes, I think it takes it in consideration. I think, first of all, you got to work harder. If you're a minority or a woman, just to be in the conversation or in the group, you got to work harder. You got to work 10 times harder than anybody else. That's just the facts. I mean, you see a black doctor, trust me, I already realized what that person had to go through just to get there. And they're working 10 times, 20 times harder just to be in the conversation or in the running for that job.
Do you really believe that?
Yes. Yes. Because I know what they're facing. I know what they have to battle against. I know what's lacking in our communities, in our schools, in our libraries, in our opportunities. Yes. So you got to really fight for it.
But you're saying our. And our sounds like a division, us and them. That should not be the principle.
No. When I say our, I mean our as in just our society. And everybody's in that society. So, and like in all the schools, just say, I'm saying our, like in all the public schools, all of them. And that's black, white, whatever. In our society, in our schools, we know how hard it is to, if you're a minority, if you're somebody of disability, you know how hard, and I personally know because I am one, I'm a black person. I'm not a minority. I hate saying minority, but I'm just using that because that's what the audience is accustomed to. Because there ain't nothing minor about me, okay? Black people ain't a minority on this planet. We're the majority, and we want majority. We want to be treated like a majority.
Do you think that majority means better treatment than provided to the minority?
I think it just means minor and major, and we're major.
Well, putting aside the numbers, how many of the people there are of each ethnicity, putting that aside for the moment, and just dealing with merit alone. And I must tell you, I went to law school. We had black students in our law school class. They were treated the same. In fact, one of them became a professor. And so the reality is, I think that's an illusion that people are basically prejudiced, and it's harder for a black person to get to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is that they're looking to become. And that's not necessarily true, especially not today.
I'm just saying, going to school, walking through a neighborhood, getting access to books, getting on a train, getting living in a food desert. It's like you got to consider all these things that take being a human, not just the classes and the professors. It's like, what happens when you walk out of the school and you walk home? Where do you go? What do you eat? What supermarkets in your neighborhood? How long will it take you to get some food and then get back to your house? And reasonable stuff. If you live in a food desert, it's like all these obstacles that you got to go through. Besides the work, I didn't even get to the work part yet. I didn't even get to the studying part yet. Just walking to the building.
Well,
it's going to be a little tougher.
Historically, you're right about people's reaction to, say, a black man walking in a white neighborhood, so to speak. It was that case in Georgia. That's exactly what happened. And the presumptions that were made by some people was there was an inferiority or a risk. I mean, that certainly was pervasive at the time, no question. You could see the reactions in the protests in the 60s. But
even now, you see those 2 young kids got killed in Georgia in that so-called sundown town. They're supposed to be on their way to the airport. And like the other brother who was jogging is an illegal thing to do sometimes when you look different.
Well, you're right about the looking different part. But the fact of the matter is we have dramatically leveled the playing field since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I'm not so sure we haven't leveled it out where in most cases, these differences don't really matter at the end of the day. Now, Trump issued an executive order, and I talked to Alan Dershowitz yesterday. As a matter of fact, we did a podcast with him. And we asked about what an executive order is. So he now has explained to us, and I recommend you folks listen to that podcast. It was a terrific interview. But the reality is an executive order changes based on who's in the White House. And
right.
It goes pretty far. Now, there is an executive order, and I have to paraphrase because I haven't read it, that basically eliminates a lot of these DEI programs and especially financing for any of these programs, and has pursued with some degree of vigor the concept of you hire people based on their merit. And I have a problem not agreeing with that. Everything should be based on merit. Do you disagree? If we weigh merit versus DEI, which way?
I think first of all, it's hypocritical. You think any of Trump's kids was hired off of merit? You think they got to work in the government because of merit? None of them. You think Trump got to work in the government because of merit or because his father was the president? It's funny how these people try to act like they talk about other people. It's like your own kids ain't working off of merit.
Well, the bottom line is overused cliche. The bottom line is that when companies are looking to hire, if they're not limited by preferences or required preferences, the right merit's going to get the job.
I think people get it wrong. It's like they're not saying don't hire off of merit. They just saying give somebody who looks different than you with the merit opportunity. It's not just anybody who looks different. It's not just any woman or any so-and-so minority. It's like, no, they have people of merit as well. So, of course, you lead off with merit, and then you spread it out. Put some women in there with merit. Put some African-Americans in there with merit. Put some Asian Americans in there with merit. It's like everybody has the merit, but it's like sometimes you got to come out of that one pool. People try to act like the gold standard is white men. Like white men is the only ones who got merit. It's like, stop it.
But don't you think that's not necessarily the majority opinion of what most people think? I certainly don't think that way. The reality is that at some point you have to make a decision as an employer who's going to best produce for your company or for you.
Right.
And I know you mentioned that these rich kids got positions not because of merit.
Of course not.
Well, that's true, but that transcends color lines too. There are the same thing happening in the Black and Asian communities. People tend to be attracted to each other And so the reality is politics, you're absolutely right. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You know that.
It's who you know.
And it's
But I'm
exactly
just
what
saying, even in government, it's like, look at what's the guy who's the Secretary of Defense? That dude, Hefset. You think he's the best? You think he has the most merit? Like, you think he's the best choice? Like he's working. He got that job off of merit. He never had any job like that before in his life. It's like, who are you comparing him to?
Don't you see the same thing in the opposition?
Yes, you can see the same thing. But as far as the government,
Obama was elected. Don't you think there was some preferences and priorities to people of color? Don't you think so? I mean, you just look at the numbers.
Yeah, I just think this is getting weaponized and getting used to separate us. Because of course you want the most qualified person to have the job, but it's you can pick qualified people out of different pools of people. That's it. Women can be qualified for the job. Just because you hired a woman don't mean that she wasn't qualified, that you just picked her because she's a woman. That just sounds stupid.
Well, it's also, there are a lot of TV shows where the baron, the guy that owned the ranch or whatever, dies and the daughter takes over. I mean, it's not like every case that's going to fall within a non-meritorious category. But the reality is that you look at the Agricultural Act, I forget what year it was, I think it was 1990, around then. It basically said that they were going to forgive loans or provide mortgages to only black farmers. And
who said that?
It's in the statute.
Okay.
It says that. And Kamala Harris said the same thing. She had a program. In fact, I actually photocopied it. It said basically the same thing. Preferences go to people of color. Now, that's not exactly fair either. And that's what it's in. It's public record. So, but I'm not making it up. But the reality.
But Kamala Harris don't speak for me. She's not the end all and reason and thought. It's like, so that's one person saying that.
Well, I guess what? I don't want to do it today. You and I could talk about it on our own. But how do you think she got to be nominated? Inner circle, back room, no primaries, nothing. And they damn well knew how bad Biden was. So
yeah, that's why the Democrats played themselves. They're trying to parade this man in front of us in the first place.
Well, I think a lot of the public voted for Trump because they saw the alternative was not acceptable. I mean,
we know this country ain't voted for a woman. Why are we even pretending like we don't know that? We know if you're a college-educated white man, you never had a woman boss. And that's how men look at the president, as a boss. And if you're a college-educated black man too, but if you're a college-educated white man, you ain't, chances that you had a woman boss is slim to none.
Well, look at the women in the cabinet. It's not like there's any prejudice shown there. There are a number of very good women in the current cabinet. And why these people get picked? You look at the last administration and the administration before that and the administration before that, and you're going to find people in cabinet positions who got there because they knew somebody. And without regard to, I don't know anything about Speth. Maybe he's competent, maybe he's not. And maybe they're all picked because they're controlled and they're able to be controlled, maybe, but it goes into the selection process, which is the entire discretion of the president. They can pick whoever they want. That's what they do with judges. They pick the people that they think are going to be supportive of their positions. And that's why the big issue in Trump's first term was the appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices, which they believed would be supportive of the agenda. They were and are. I mean, for the most part. But I also want to ask you, you familiar with the term reparations?
Reparations? What about it?
Reparations. In other words,
reparations. What about it?
Because there was a lot of talk and some legislation sponsored that would provide for payments to descendants of original slaves. And that
enslaved.
Pardon?
Nobody's a slave. We were enslaved.
Well, whatever choice, I accept whatever your understanding of the term is. The fact of the matter is that he was to go to a specially picked group of people and excluded the others. How do you
Mhm.
feel about that?
I'm with it. They always try to act like, where will we get the money to pay these reparations? There's a simple solution to this. Just take it out to taxes. If you have a lineage back to being an enslaved person, just you don't pay taxes, just like a church. That's it. You ain't gotta send out checks. You can just not have to pay taxes. How's that? And there, that way you don't have to send out any checks, but you just are, acknowledging that these kind of benefits are necessary.
Well, if you look at the evolution of the law, you'll see that as times changed, the law has changed with it. So you can't say something is definite other than we have a constitution and it needs to be adhered to. And all of these actions that are being taken and are being basically discussed by the judiciary deal with constitutional issues. There
Yeah.
are enormous number of challenges for us now, and the law is not only evolving, but it's sometimes ambiguous. And that's
Yeah,
just
see, here's the thing about the law in America. It's always been a constitution, and we always been getting the same ass whooping. I mean, the law is whatever they say it is. The Constitution is whatever they say it is. It's like we have the same Constitution when we had people enslaved. We had the same Constitution when we had Jim Crow. We had the same Constitution when we had separation of education and then neighborhoods and redlining, and we had all the Constitution ain't a new thing. It's always been here, and it's always been. So we know that the Constitution matters up to a point, but what really matters is whoever's in that White House and whoever's running this country. And that's just how it is. It's
well,
like the Constitution is not some golden shield of blessings. It's just we went through everything in this country. We went through with a Constitution.
well, if you look at the Constitution, there are rules and regulations. And if you look at Brown versus the Board of Education, the city of Wichita, going back to 1954,
Yeah.
made a constitutional determination that all were equal in terms of getting an education. I mean, that's just
Brown lost.
and those have been happening year after year after year. Decisions that are tending to create more of an adherence as opposed to an interpretation of the Constitution, and worth fighting for. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you one other interesting question. I think. Well, I hope they're all interesting, but not necessarily.
They are.
We talked about the election, and there have been statements made by a variety of different people that the election of Kamala Harris was lost because, number one, she was a Black woman, and number two, she was a woman.
I think it's number one, she was a woman. That's the number one.
You think so?
The color comes separate. Comes up second. She was a woman, man. Show me another example of a woman being president. Now, we already had a Black person, so that's already a check. So show me where a woman. See, that's why we so behind, like England, even for like England, for example, or even Mexico now with their woman president. But Margaret Thatcher was in 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's like we just seem so far behind because we feel as a group, it seems like we feel that women aren't up to the job, which is ridiculous.
But you think it was merely a question of gender?
Yep, no question about it.
Things that were determining factors that had nothing to do with gender.
I think it was all gender. I think it was mostly gender. That's it. I think it was mostly gender. Even when it was like, more Black men are saying they were voting for Trump than voting for I was like, no kidding, because it's gender. No kidding. But I don't think it was a huge number. But I'm just saying anything that's skewed, they were trying to put. It's like it was gender. It was gender. Men are, that's how we know men. We are men. We know how they are. You know how they talk in a barbershop or in the locker room talk. We know how they are. And if you got a low self-esteem or you already feel like you got to go home and a woman's running you, you ain't trying to. Men are insecure.
Do you ever consider gender in anything that you're doing?
You see me? Oh, there we go.
Picking
Men are
apart.
insecure, and men are. I'm telling you, they just feel like sexist. A lot of men feel like if they see a woman in a higher position, she only got that job because of some kind of diversity hiring, and that's not the case. Maybe she's more qualified than you. Maybe she's more educated than you. And then before men have to deal with that, they'll just be like this. She don't deserve it.
You think people say that about minorities as well? They don't
Of
deserve.
course, because that's their own insecurity, and they don't want to feel like somebody's out there actually studying more than them, somebody actually working harder than them. So that's how they feel. They be like this. They ain't working harder than me. They must have got that because of. But it's like, stop it. And that's why it's like just disconcerting when I see white women getting behind that, like trying to knock it down. Because it's like, don't you know you benefited from that sacrifice that we made more than anybody? White women benefited from those struggles that black people made to try to get included more than anybody. So for them to come back and be like this, oh, it's wrong to have the diversity and the DEI hiring. It's like you benefited more than anybody.
The last question, key question, and I know absolutely it's going to be speculation, and you're guessing. You're a smart guy. I know you studied your mother or you studied history. So the question is, given what we are now seeing in the running of the government, which is somewhat chaotic, what do you think the ultimate effect is going to be looking ahead?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Well, yes, go ahead.
What do you think the ultimate effect is going to be based on what's going on now when you look down the road?
I'm sorry, say it again.
What do you think we're looking at down the road in terms of relations, government, and things of that nature? You're optimistic, pessimistic, and tell us why.
I'm optimistic because the younger generations are laughing at us. They look at these dinosaurs trying to get in between progress. It's like you show me anybody's politics, and I'll show you somebody in their family who's younger who like this. Jesus Christ, they're going to be here. So it's embarrassing. It's going to look prehistoric to them. So yeah, I'm optimistic because every generation look back at the other generation like this. Can you believe they used to do that? So yes, I'm optimistic. You show me anybody's politics, you go to a Thanksgiving table, and I'll guarantee you the younger generations in their family are embarrassed by them.
You think they're too progressive?
So it's progressive. I think it's going to be because they got more access to each other. They got more opportunity to speak with each other. They communicate more with each other. It's all groups. So it's like what older people think is the thing. It's going to look dated and embarrassing to a younger generation.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. So I want to thank you, Sherrod, for being on the show again. I know
I love you, Judge. You know that.
We've been friends for a long time. So
yes.
I get back to New York. So thanks again and be well.
Thank you for having me. Take care. I love you. We're good. There we go.